to infinity and beyond!
This is me. This is how I win.
Were you rushing or were you dragging? Answer!
You're a wizard, Harry.
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you.
No. I am your father.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
And here we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back inside the film room. I'm Zach Goins, editor-in-chief of InsideFilmRoom.com, and I'm here today with senior writer Johnny Sobczak. Johnny, how are you on this wonderful Sunday afternoon?
I'm great, Zach. I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm great as well because we've got a wonderful episode in store for you all today. We are booting up Netflix, going over to everyone's favorite streamer, debatable, but we have The Mitchells versus the Machines, a nice little animated adventure film to check out, as well as our top 5 non-Disney Pixar animated movies. We're throwing it back with a new ranking for you, and in honor of The Mitchells versus the Machines, which comes from Sony Pictures Animations, we're mixing it up because, you know, we've done the Disney ranking, the Pixar ranking, all that stuff. Let's give a little love to everybody else. And I know that's something that you're into, so that's what we're doing, along with our news, as always, but no Marvel Cinematic Universe, televisionatic universe to break down this week. So should be able to get us in and out of this episode without an hour-long discussion.
Yeah, man. I think this is going to be a good one, but a not so long one.
I'm curious, before we started recording, I was chatting with Johnny, and so he texted us in our group message that he was watching this movie on Friday night. And
yes.
So you know Johnny, anybody who follows Johnny knows that he's a huge Letterboxd guy. So I had watched this movie about 2 weeks ago probably and was anxiously awaiting his ranking, and you know, days passed, hours passed, days passed, and no stars. I was nervous. I was like, oh God, he hated it. He definitely hated it. This is going to be an awful episode where he's going to attack me. But finally, Sunday morning, that ranking came in, and I'm excited to chat it up with you.
Yeah, man. It's a fun one this week, so nothing too heavy or crazy.
Definitely. And quick shout out before we get started. We've still got a couple giveaways running on social media at Inside Film Room. Hit us up on Twitter. We've got Judas and the Black Messiah, as well as The Little Things, 2 Warner Brothers Pictures, HBO Max hybrid releases that are hitting Blu-ray on May 4th. So you've got 1 day left to enter those. Check it out on Twitter, retweet and follow us, and you'll be entered to win. And like I said, 1 day left, so get on it. But before we get into everything, what has been going on with you, Johnny? I know we've got to check in. Anything that you've been watching? I know Invincible. No spoilers, because I have not watched any of it, but I've seen just based on your tweets that's the move this week.
Yeah, Invincible has 100% been le move. I had seen the first 3 or so episodes, like not this past week, but the week before last, and then really I was struggling getting caught up on it. Kind of waiting around to just that way I could almost like kind of binge it, but I wasn't totally in that mindset. I did end up getting all the way caught up before the season finale happened, which came out on Friday. I was lucky enough to get to see it a couple days early thanks to Amazon. So once I saw how it all kind of tied together, season 1, I was very, very loudly and proudly praising it on Twitter and telling everyone that they need to check it out. Because at that point, when I finished watching it, it had not been renewed for another season. There was no news on what was going to happen with it. and wasn't totally clear how well it was doing. And then, of course, thankfully on Friday, we got the news that it was in fact getting renewed, or it might have even been Thursday, but it was getting renewed for at least 2 more seasons. So that made my whole week. Very happy about that. And like you said, no spoilers, not going to go into a lot of detail, but it is a fantastic superhero show. If you aren't familiar with the comics, it's written by and created by Robert Kirkman, who also wrote and created the Walking Dead comic series and was very involved with the television show. He's very involved with this one as well. And it seems like so far from the comic fans that I've talked to, it's a great, very faithful adaptation, but still kind of doing its own thing. So whatever you think you might know about it, if you think it looks kind of like basic, or if you think it looks kind of like cliche, anything like that, or something you've seen before, I guarantee it is not. So go ahead, give it a look, and get caught up and get ready for whenever season 2 is going to come out.
And this may be, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question, but I just want to clarify. It may be a dumb question. This is not related to anything pre-existing, like superhero universe. It's not Marvel. It's not DC. It's all completely its own thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's actually a good question, because it is very much its own thing. Robert Kirkman invented all the characters that are in here. Of course, many of them you can tell are influenced or inspired by real, I say real, but pre-existing characters in other universes like DC or like Marvel. So you got speedsters, you got people flying around with Superman-like powers, Batman-esque characters, things like that. But it is very much its own thing, and it is a great, unique spin on that entire aesthetic and type of world, I guess, that you would see in DC and Marvel. Because we are so used to those universes at this point in the comics and the shows and the movie franchises as well. So, but this, I mean, it's May. We're finally into May, and the year kind of feels like it's flying by almost. But up to this point, this is by far the best show that I have seen, and just one of the best pieces of entertainment in general. So I can't recommend it enough.
That's exciting to hear, because like I mentioned last week, I have been going through, I'm still not done yet. I kind of had a pause this past week, but with the Harley Quinn series, so finally expanding into some more like animated type stuff. This is definitely like high on my list to check out once I finish that. And it's funny that you mentioned that about 2021 TV, because like, as most people who know me, and I feel like you're the same way, like I track like everything, like Letterboxd helps a lot for like movies, but like in addition, I have like a note on my app where it's like 2021 movies seen in order with my scores for them all. And like, I do the same thing with like the books I read and the TV that I watch and everything. And I'm looking at the TV list, and like, I've watched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons of different shows, but only 2 of them, plus Ted Lasso twice, shout out, as both rewatches. But out of all of those, only 2 shows have been 2021, like new releases. And those are both WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I need to get into some more new, 2021 TV versus just catching up on old stuff, so that I can, once that, like you said, the year's flying by. So I need to be able to have my list put together at the end of the year. I can't just have, I can't have 2021 film. I can't have shows, Succession season 2 on 2021 TV. Like that came out a while ago.
Right.
But no, I need to do that. And Invincible's at the top of the list to check out. But
yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned Succession just now, because I am making my way through that. I know the 3rd season is upcoming and will hopefully be out this year, but this Invincible, definitely the best new show from Invincible. And I would say Succession, getting caught up on that is, I mean, one of the best shows I've ever seen. And I think my enjoyment and the quality is very comparable between Invincible and Succession. So I've been enjoying going through both of those lately.
We'll have to chat once you get all the way caught up, because I too was a late bloomer to Succession, to finally, like, I just watched season 1 at the end of last year and then season 2 to start off this year. So I'm excited to get to get to. It's like catching up on Game of Thrones before the next
It
season
is,
comes out, where
yeah.
you can watch live. So I'm excited for that. But like I said, I kind of had like a weird week this past week because I got the chance to come back to Charlotte to work with the Panthers as a meme consultant, essentially, for the NFL draft. They asked me to come back and basically just help with some social media stuff. So NFL draft was Thursday night and Friday night and Saturday during the day. So between working my full-time job, driving from Raleigh to Charlotte, and then working the draft, there was not much time for, watching TV or movies. So I don't really have much to report this week beyond last night. Since I'm back home with my family, they had been wanting to check out The Little Things since it came out on HBO Max back in January. So now that I have the DVD or the Blu-rays for that raffling off. So we watched it. We watched it last night, and I know you didn't like it, but I think the rewatch confirmed that I did in fact enjoy it, and it was not just like a product of the moment.
Yeah.
So still, my parents had the same sentiment of unsatisfying ending, but
Right.
But overall, they both enjoyed it quite a bit. Like basically said, like first 90% was really good. So maybe it's just a Goins thing.
It.
But
it's a Goins thing.
I believe my mother's phrase was, Jared Leto's really good at playing those creeps. So,
hey, she's not wrong.
Yeah, 100% accurate statement there. But yeah, not much movie-wise going on this weekend without any. Since I watched this movie, Mitchell's versus the Machines 2 weeks ago, and then nothing really theatrical to check out this week. I don't want to say I've been slacking because I've been doing quite a bit, but just not on the movie front.
Slacker, man.
Well, you know who actually has been slacking? The news. There hasn't been much of that because there's some good stuff here that we're going to go through, but for the most part, it wasn't like a typical week where it's like we've got 20 things and we've got to cut it down to 8 so our podcast isn't 3 hours long.
Yeah.
But we've got some stuff to go through. Let's go ahead and get started with the only big trailer from this past week, and that was earlier in the week for Luca, which I guess topical since we're doing animated movies, although Pixar is not in the running today. So What did you think? It's the first, I guess the first one was considered a trailer as well. So I guess this is like the second trailer. But obviously a ton more information revealed here as to what the animated Call Me By Your Name will be like, what this world entails in regard to like the rules of who's a sea monster and who isn't and why they're hiding and all that. So what did you think? Did you even check it out? Because I know sometimes you like to go in blind.
Yeah, so you're right. I did. I decided to skip this one just because at first it was almost like a teaser, that initial thing we got. Maybe like that was one of the surprises I felt with this is I didn't know that they were dropping this, and so when they did, I was like, did they not just drop a Luca trailer like not long ago?
Right. It seemed sort of back to back.
Yeah, so I thought that was a little strange, and it's still not due out until it's next month, right?
June 16th, I want to say.
Yeah, so or potentially 18th. But yeah, so I was just like, okay.
17th,
I can wait.
Split the difference.
Hey, there we go. But yeah, so I thought that the teaser that we saw, whenever that was fine. Wasn't crazy about it. How did this one compare as far as you said that you got some more information, some more insight? Did you, when we talked about the initial one, did you like that one a lot? And how'd that one compare to this new, like more fully fleshed out trailer?
I mean, after both of them, it's not like I am lining. This isn't a theatrical release; it's Disney Plus. But
right.
in for the sense of this phrase, I'm not lining up at the theater to get my ticket front and center. Like I will watch this probably. I will get a screener. I'll watch it early, but this isn't one that I'm like dying on the edge of my seat to check out. So, but I'm still excited about it. It's Pixar. It's Disney. It's going to be good regardless, I'd imagine. But for the most part, a little bit more just information on the story itself. I think we met a new character as well in the trailer. But I know going into that first one, we thought that it was going to be only one of them. One of the boys was like a sea monster, and he was hiding it from the other one. But then in the first teaser, we learned that they both are sea monsters. And now in this in this second teaser, we're just learning more and more. So I think it's good if you do want to go in blind that you did not check it out. I don't feel by any means that it gave away too much information.
Right.
But just knowing you and your approach, good call to sit this one out.
Yeah, and I am still bummed that they are foregoing the theatrical release.
And so are the employees at Pixar.
Yeah, there has been continued pushback on that. It sounds like.
I mean, obviously, at Disney, it's all about making money. They've thought this through much more than either of us have, and they know how it's working and how to capitalize on that. So I guess I trust in their mindset of like how they're going to make money. I'm sure that they're doing what will make them the most money. But with that being said,
they're a corporation, so I feel like that's a safe bet.
With that being said, though, like I can't imagine a world in which releasing this in theaters as well would like cause harm to their bottom line, you know?
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Obviously, the pandemic's getting better. We've both been to movie theaters plenty of times now. Like if you have the choice and the comfort to go to a movie theater to watch this, like you should be able to. I would go and watch this in a movie theater, but to do it strictly on Disney Plus is like kind of a bummer. And I totally understand where all these people who have poured hours and hours and hours of hard work into this feel kind of like slighted that they're not getting that chance.
Yeah, it's interesting too because in that same like thought, we know Raya and the Last Dragon came out a couple months ago now, and we've made pretty good strides, I think, with regards to the pandemic and the vaccine in the last couple months. And Raya put up decent numbers in theaters. It's doing fine.
The fact that was premiere access plus theaters,
yeah, exactly,
versus Soul, which was much better quality of movie, obviously came out earlier, more in the heart of the pandemic, but that was better quality, and they did for free. So I don't understand the logic behind how what they put a price tag on, what they don't, what they put in theaters. Like as Black Widow is going to be premiere access and in theaters, so like it just doesn't seem to match up, I guess. With I don't know what their thought process is.
Yeah, but well, nonetheless, I'm definitely going to check it out when they drop it. And we shall see, I guess, how it all works out. Hopefully it's good because, I wasn't crazy about Raya. I know you weren't either. Of course, this is Pixar, and that was Disney animation. But Soul is going to be a tough act to follow, I reckon. Yeah,
definitely. This obviously looks more of a lighthearted adventure, less of the kick you in the heart, like rip your heart out kind of thing. So
yeah, maybe that's what we need this summer. Yeah,
exactly. Well, moving on, like I said, that was the only big trailer. So moving to the hard news side of things, and we've got some casting announcements. I know this one's more up your alley just because I have not seen Possessor, but David Cronenberg's next film, Crimes of the Future, has 2 stars, and it's Kristen Stewart and Viggo Mortensen. So I know you and Jake seem to both be pretty excited about this news.
Yeah, and I know they announced a few other actors that are going to appear in this. I know Léa Seydoux was another one mentioned who I quite like. But yeah, this is I haven't seen a ton of Cronenberg's work. I still need to revisit some of his bigger stuff, but I have seen oh God, why is the name escaping me now? No, Possessor. So Possessor is his son.
Well, then you know what? I'm a fool.
David, hey, that's nepotism for you. But no, David Cronenberg, I mean, he's been around for decades. He's almost 80 years old. Still going strong. Videodrome is the one marquee film by him that I have seen. And that movie is crazy. And I love it. He's known especially for his, body horror, films like The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. And then more recently, his filmography is very diverse as well, especially more recently with things like A History of Violence with Viggo, Eastern Promises, Cosmopolis from 2012 with Robert Pattinson. So yeah, the premise of this, I think it has me most intrigued because again, I am a sci-fi fan. This is a sci-fi, almost dystopian premise that we have here, and of course, Crimes of the Future. It sounds like almost like a 1980s sci-fi film. And it says that the logline here says that it's set in a distant future where humans have evolved beyond their natural state and into a metamorphosis, which also reminds me of The Fly and Videodrome, altering their biological makeup. It tells the story of a popular performance artist played by Viggo Mortensen whose shtick involves growing new organs in his body. And again, that's very much Videodrome-esque. Yeah, Cronenberg is just so weird. He kind of reminds me of David Lynch in that respect. I think no matter what he does, I'm always going to be interested and willing to give it a look. And I think the cast here certainly helps.
Yeah, well, I've had zero knowledge about Brandon Cronenberg beyond Possessor, so now I have even less knowledge about David Cronenberg. But Kristen Stewart, Viggo Mortensen, both pretty good actors. I'd check it out. That's the extent of my involvement here.
And on top of that, the other exciting bit of news here is that Neon is the company that has picked it up. So producing, distributing, that's really exciting. Of course, they're most well known for Parasite, and
it's movies like this that are just like, is it going to be a Neon movie or an A24 movie? Neon is quickly becoming like a peer to A24, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. So excited about that. Glad to see that's happening. And we have another, I guess, sort of like a thriller coming, and it's going to be an adaptation of The Wonder, which is a novel, and it's going to star Florence Pugh.
I'm in.
That's
all I needed to hear.
That's all Zach needed to hear, and I can't disagree. I love Florence Pugh, and she has a number of projects on her slate right now. But this one is going to be set in the late 1850s, with a story following an English nurse who goes to a tiny village in Ireland to observe what some view as a medical anomaly and others consider a miracle, when a young girl who has survived without food for months. That's interesting.
Just like a circus exhibit to come and see this girl.
Yeah, it fits the time period too. So as tourists flock to the cabin of the 11-year-old to witness the bizarre occurrence, a journalist is sent to cover the sensation. So I guess the journalist will be the male lead in the film. Not totally sure who is going to be playing that character yet. This is directed by Sebastian Lelio of Gloria.
As well as Gloria Bell, the English language version of Gloria.
Remake starring Julianne Moore. And A Fantastic Woman, which is the film that I'm like more familiar with. So he's got a strong pedigree, and the screenplay is by Alice Birch, who has written for TV shows such as Normal People and Succession. So
both
really strong
bangers.
group there. Yeah. So behind the camera, on the screenplay, and then the star Pugh. What do you think of that premise? And I don't really know what to make of that, I guess, but it sounds. I'm down to watch it. I pay for a ticket for that.
Yeah, I don't. No, it's kind of all over the place. Like, I don't really know how that'll turn into a psychological thriller.
Right. Yeah.
Because I don't know. It just, something will obviously have to take a dark turn or something. I would imagine to make that to fit the genre. But I've seen Gloria Bell, and I wasn't crazy about it.
Right.
But more exciting for me beyond just Florence Pugh was the Alice Birch news, because I was a huge fan. Normal People was my second favorite show of last year to Ted Lasso. And then obviously Succession, we were just talking about it, is incredible. So that's super promising for me to hear the news of Alice Birch being involved.
Yeah. And it's great to see her, getting work like this. So I'm looking forward to it. No idea when we're going to see it, but I would imagine probably next year. Again, Florence Pugh is very busy. But these smaller films keep it pretty quick and easy. So, but talking about a film, Zach, that is apparently in the works and coming quickly. We were just discussing an English language remake as well, Sebastian Lelio. But Leonardo DiCaprio is supposedly going to star in an English language remake of Another Round, which Thomas Vinterberg's film just won an Oscar for international film a week ago today. So they are very quickly snatching this up. And this has gotten a ton of backlash and pushback online. I don't know. I haven't seen another round yet. I've heard nothing but great things.
Neither have I. Yeah.
I need to check it out. It's on Hulu. But I don't know. I don't know what to make of this.
This whole thing. Yeah. This whole thing just seems weird to me in the sense that first your star of another round, the Danish version of it, is a very well-known American actor as well. Like he speaks perfectly fine English. If you wanted to remake this, just have him do it again. But also, like, Gloria versus Gloria Bell. I don't want to speak out of turn here, so let me pull up the old IMDb page for Gloria. But if I did not know of Gloria before Gloria Bell, and then like I heard the news that it was like, but going into it, I heard like how great it was supposed to be. But that was 2013 was Gloria to then 2018. So we had a 5-year gap there. And then,
I think the quickness of this is also
right.
What's
the fact that
people.
Let me make sure here. Did Gloria have like? Because I don't want to say this and then get called out for it being wrong. I don't like. Gloria was not an Oscar winner, was not nominated or anything. So like it's a little more under the radar before.
That's true. Yeah.
So like that makes this even weirder. Not only the quickness, but like this movie is super well known right now.
Right.
And you're just let's go ahead and make the same thing again.
Exactly.
Like, within 2 years of something that is also super popular and well known.
Right. And it's interesting because we also saw last year something similar happened with Parasite, where they're doing a show, a series kind of spinning off with that. And the thing is with that, we don't know the details about that entirely, how much is going to be influenced or how much it's going to be following that original movie. I guess it is going to be some sort of spin-off in that same vein, but this sounds like
set
it's
in the same. The new update was that it's set in the same universe, aka South Korea. Like,
yeah,
it's not some cinematic universe.
Yeah, so that's it's interesting. This sounds
would
like
be like if last year, like, imagine if a week after last year's Oscars they had said, guess what? Saoirse Ronan and Florence Pugh are starring in an American remake of Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Like, and that didn't even get nominated or win, but still, like, that level of prominence.
It's so weird. Yeah, because DiCaprio himself, I mean, that's a huge star, of course, and his company, went after these rights, and now he wants to star in this movie, I guess. It seems out of care. I don't know. I mean, I don't know Leonardo DiCaprio, of course. But
you don't?
His profile doesn't really, like, I would never have guessed that he would want to do something like this. You know what I mean? Like that he'd be one to pursue something so new, so like well received this quickly and go ahead and try to do a remake of it. You know what I mean? I mean, he's got plenty of other stuff that he could be involved with if he wanted to. I don't think there's anyone turning down Leonardo DiCaprio. But
I believe it was Josh.
He must be passionate about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I believe it was Josh who pointed out on social media that, again, neither of us have seen another round, so I can't speak too much as to the plot, but that Mads Mikkelsen's character is like an aging, like coming to terms with like his age and his past, and like that his prime is behind him, and that's something that we've just seen very well done by Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So while we do have our objections to this, I can't imagine that it would not be great to see Leo in that role.
Oh, there's no doubt that Leo would give a great performance like in this. And it's interesting because Jake Gyllenhaal's production company was also trying to get the rights for it, which I could see him doing that as well. I think that would have been interesting. But I don't know. It's weird. I need to see another round. I need to see this original film. But I guess we'll see. This could get made. It sounds like they're really going to try to do it. But maybe this is going to be one of those things where it just kind of simmers out and they end up not doing it. But hey, I guess I would watch it. I don't know. And it's another interesting thing about that as well is I know in another round it's Mads Mikkelsen is the main character, of course, but then he has a few buddies that are in the film, and they're all kind of interacting a lot throughout the story. So I saw someone mention that Jonah Hill will probably end up getting cast in this as like one of his friends.
That's another thing, like the fact that, again, haven't seen it, but like I know that it's about the Danish drinking culture, basically.
Yeah.
And if they're making this, is it going to be an American who just goes to Denmark and experiences that, or is it going to be like taking place in America, where that's not that is not what the culture is like? Like at what point does it become something completely different than the original?
Yeah. No, it's a very good point. But again, this all remains to be seen. I'm sure this is multiple years away, most likely. So, moving on, getting into some more poppy, fun news stories here. Zach, we're finally getting some more news as HBO Max kind of getting a lot of their projects off the ground. Of course, they have The Last of Us filming this summer. House of the Dragon just started filming this past week, which was pretty cool to hear. But Green Lantern, their first like big DC show, is set to get started as well, and they just cast Finn Wittrock as Guy Gardner. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with the Green Lantern.
I'm more familiar with Finn Wittrock than I am with the Green Lantern. If that
no,
I
remember him. I remember him from The Big Short and La La Land, but I don't remember him outside of anything else. You can remind us if there's something I'm missing that's big.
Basically, American Horror Story from like season 4 on.
That's right.
I don't know. That's what I know him from most, because he kind of became like a Ryan Murphy darling.
Yeah.
Where he was in. Let's see. I'm trying to pull up what specific season he got started in. But basically, I think it was Freak Show. He became like a new, which was season 4, I believe, and then he just kind of like kept coming back, and then he appeared in American Crime Story, another one of Ryan Murphy's shows, and then Ratched, another one of Ryan Murphy's shows. So he has secured the bag in the Murphyverse. And then I'm just seeing also, I know you have watched it. He was also in The Last Black Man in San Francisco.
Yeah, he's good in that.
And then a couple other things.
Yeah, the film things he has bit roles in all the stuff that I've seen, basically. But so considering that you've seen a lot more of him, what would you say of him as an actor? I mean, I've liked him. I think in general he does, pretty well, like with what he is given.
Yeah, I like him as well. I think I stopped watching American Horror Story maybe a couple years ago, but like it's hard to judge it based off that alone, because like Ryan Murphy's style is so like over the top, and like
almost
it's not like it's like anything that he does for Ryan Murphy will be different than like it's very specific to that. But in his premiere season and his most notable, he was like in Freak Show, he was like this like man child who gets everything he wants and is like super upset if he doesn't. And when he was very good at that, which I can't imagine that's going to overlap with his character for Green Lantern much, but
it's funny. I didn't realize it until just now when you pointed it out, but he's been in a Damien Chazelle film and a Barry Jenkins film. So that's pretty good filmography right there, at least the last couple of years. So
yeah, you can't argue with that.
But even if they are small roles, but in this, so I'll use my comic knowledge to kind of put my piece on there. But the little summary that we have in the Deadline report says Green Lantern, the show, is going to reinvent the classic DC property through a story spanning decades and galaxies, beginning on Earth in 1941 with the very first Green Lantern, secretly gay FBI agent Alan Scott, and in 1984 with cocky alpha male Guy Gardner and half-alien Bree Jarda. They'll be joined by a multitude of other lanterns, from comic book favorites to never-before-seen heroes. So we had heard, there have been rumors and reports that Guy Gardner was going to be one of the primary characters in this series, which I was looking forward to. In the comics, he is exactly as he's described here. He's very much a cocky, alpha, or like meat-headed kind of... I don't even know. I'm trying to think of some fan casts that had been made prior to this, because there had been a lot of good ones that I had seen and heard. Finn Wittrock, when I heard this news and saw it sent in the group chat, I was very excited because I think he fits that to a T. He can definitely play that. And Guy Gardner, at the end of the day, despite this description, he is a lovable, good guy. And I think that Finn Wittrock and the other stuff that I've seen from him can play that as well. And that'll be an interesting character to watch develop. But yeah, I'm super excited for this. It can't be worse than the Green Lantern movie we got. So this is, I think, everything.
Which I have not seen. So most of the minimal knowledge I have of Green Lantern is from like cartoons as a child, or just a little bit of the Green Lanterns in Justice League and Zack Snyder.
Yeah. I have not seen the Ryan Reynolds film either, thankfully. So
we've been spared.
But I'm really looking forward to this. I know they have this going over there at HBO Max, and they also have a Justice League Dark show that they're developing. And
this is live action, correct? Not a cartoon?
Yes. Yeah, it's going to be totally live action, big budget. And they also, another one I just remembered that they're going to have is going to be a Strange Adventures, Adam Strange show, which is very much, it's not like Green Lantern, but it's almost like kind of a Guardians of the Galaxy type space opera style. So definitely some cool stuff on the horizon over there.
In addition to Peacemaker.
Yeah, Peacemaker. Yes, that was the other one that I was thinking of from DC. So yeah, they're stacked up. I'm super excited to see the content they're pumping out. And that's just DC. Of course, we also have, like I mentioned, House of the Dragon. There's supposed to be a Dune show in development, a bunch of other stuff. So very, very exciting. On the other side, we're talking about franchises. Back in the film realm, Dominique Fishback, who co-starred in Judas and the Black Messiah. She got a BAFTA nomination for her performance, which was very deserved. She's going to be co-starring in Stephen Cappell Jr.'s Transformers film, which we knew was getting developed. One of the 2 Transformers movies they have in development right now. And she's going to be starring alongside Anthony Ramos. So, of course, Anthony Ramos from Hamilton, and then he's going to be starring in WB's In the Heights this summer. So he's having himself quite a big last year or so. I'm excited to see this pair. I like both of them. Fishback especially. I haven't seen Ramos in anything, I don't believe, except for maybe a smaller role like A Star Is Born, which A
Star Is Born and I guess Hamilton, and then what we'll get in the Heights.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to see him in that. But yeah, I think this could be. I mean, this is, I think, a situation where the Transformers movies got to a point where, I mean, it can only be up from here. And I think having 2 likable, talented people at the forefront is a very good choice. Definitely an upgrade from Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. That was.
I kind of got like the later Transformers movies kind of turned into like the later seasons of American Idol, where it's like, wait, who are the judges now? Like, I can't even remember. Like, once Shia LaBeouf and Megan Fox were gone, it kind of got into like the weird point of like, wait, okay, so now it's this person. Wait, it's Mark Wahlberg. Like, it just kind of kept coming and getting weirder, and it got hard to keep up with. But I want to put some respect on Anthony Ramos's name because he was Staff Sergeant Martinez in Godzilla King of the Monsters as well.
Are you serious?
I know that's one of your favorites. It's a very like minor background role. Yeah,
I don't remember that at all.
But I don't know if is it Stephen Capel or I don't know. I think it's Stephen Capel. But he directed Creed 2, which I still not as good as the first Creed, but I still enjoyed it quite a bit.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's really the extent of my familiarity with him as a director. But I'm excited for it. Like you said, Transformers kind of nowhere but to go but up, and this is like the reset on that front. But then we also had the previous reset of Bumblebee, which was like very promising as well with Haley Steinfeld, and like I guess there'll be just 2 separate timelines of maybe a present day here and then the Bumblebee one, which was like the 80s. But if that's the direction that they're heading, like what we got teased in Bumblebee, I think that they're headed in the right direction and how these movies should be, and not just like over serious explosion fests.
No, yeah, definitely. I think a more lighthearted and fun. I know people, those people get mad about those buzzwords, especially in relations to like superhero movies and DC movies and things like that. But I think for Transformers, that fits the bill pretty well. I mean, it can still be serious and not take itself like overly seriously. And like you said, Bumblebee, which I still need to see. I haven't seen Bumblebee, but everything I saw from that and heard about it, it looks like they kind of had the right tone at least.
Definitely. And you just mentioned DC, and I just mentioned Godzilla. So that leads into our final two pieces of news here. First up, the DC fandom is back. There will be another online event replacing. I guess Comic-Con is still a thing. It's happening for some reason over Thanksgiving weekend in person, which is going to be hard to get attend. I would imagine that's going to be a tough ticket to sell. But this one,
I heard apparently they're moving off of the Thanksgiving idea.
They finally adjusted. Yeah. Well, October 16th, mark your calendar because it's going down online for DC Fandom, which was a fun event last year. Johnny crushed it covering a ton of different stories about everything that was coming out. So I'm sure you're excited to get those clicks back up again. And what else are you excited to hopefully see? I know you sent out I think it was on Twitter, you posted your expectations of what your dream lineup would be.
Yeah, I tweeted something out because the DC Twitter was like, "Hey, what do you want to see?" And yeah, I mean, there's the cool thing about this is last year they really only had a couple movies in the immediate, future, and even with the pandemic, immediate future was kind of dragged out anyway. But we got to see, of course, that big first look at the Batman with the teaser trailer, and then we got some behind the scenes footage from the Suicide Squad. So that was all really fun, really cool. But this year they have a ton of movies in development that are going to be filming during this year. A lot of them will probably be finished by the time this goes down. And then, of course, this will be after the Suicide Squad comes out, but just a few months before the Batman arrives. So, I think it would make a lot of sense for the first like full-blown the Batman trailer to release, or for it to be at DC Fandom, and then of course this, assuming that they perhaps do it a third time next year, they could also have a first trailer for Black Adam, which will be out next summer, and then also you could have either real footage or behind the scenes looks at least at The Flash, Aquaman 2, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, which are all filming this year and over the summer, hopefully. And of course, Peacemaker is supposed to be out very early next year. I think January is what James Gunn said. So perhaps we get our first trailer for that at DC Fandom, or at least the first footage. And then, of course, I'm sure I would like to hear some news on other things that they have on the horizon. We know Emerald Fennell is writing a Zatanna script. We know Ta-Nehisi Coates is doing a Superman script. And of course, Green Lantern Corps is going to be the show for HBO Max. Will hopefully be fully in production or done filming season 1 at that point. So hey, maybe we'll get some tease of that as well. But lots of possibilities, I think.
Definitely. Obviously you are more in touch with all of that than I am, but if we could get, obviously we want a Batman trailer as soon as possible because it just looks freaking awesome. But I can't imagine a world in which they don't use that as like it was like the centerpiece last year, and if they can carry that over to make it the centerpiece again, I think that they're definitely 100% going to do that.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a safe bet for sure.
But other than that, I would say, we're just going to have to wait and see that Restore the Snyderverse trailer when it drops. That big announcement, that panel is going to be great.
Don't say that, bro. You never know.
You never know who's listening.
Right.
And final piece of news, Godzilla vs. Kong director Adam Wingard is supposedly, I just mentioned Restore the Snyderverse. Apparently everything has a hashtag now. So there was the Extend the Monsterverse hashtag. And that very well may be happening because Adam Wingard is in talks to helm a new Monsterverse film. And the rumor is it's Son of Kong. So any thoughts there? I know you you've been very mixed on these movies, but
Yeah.
the Kong ones, if I'm correct, the Kong ones have been more enticing to you than Godzilla.
Right. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I'm just glad that they're are going to be doing more of these. I think, even if I am not enjoying them, and I don't think they're the greatest movies in the world. I think there are clearly a ton of fans out there. I mean, Godzilla vs. Kong did very, very well at the box office worldwide, especially considering the pandemic. Um, and Adam Wingard, I think people were mostly happy with how he handled everything. So, yeah, even if I'm not, crazy about these movies and looking forward to the next one, I think that's just good news. It's good news for Legendary as well, because this is clearly one of their biggest, if not their biggest property. And, good news all around for the people actually making these damn things.
For sure. I'll be there. I'll turn my brain off and check in for 2 hours and watch this. I saw a funny tweet. You know what? It's not appropriate for the podcast. We'll save that one for later. Shall we get into our review here? The Mitchells versus the Machines on Netflix. Let's do it.
Let it begin.
The last humans must be here somewhere. Wait.
They're coming.
Is that a burnt orange 1993 station wagon?
Or is it... Who are these unstoppable warriors?
We're the Mitchells, the only people who can save the world. I'm super sorry, everyone.
Like I said off the top, a little background info. Not a Disney movie, not a Pixar movie. It's coming from the other side of the animation world, and that's Sony Pictures Animations, which has given us some absolute gems, and especially if it has the name Lord and Miller attached to it, which this one does. I mean, not just Sony, but Lord and Miller. They've done the Lego Movie. They've done Into the Spider-Verse. They've done this now, on top of
Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, yeah. And then on the non-animated side, the Jump Street movies are some of my favorites. But anything from them is going to be hysterical and very creative. And they're producers here, so this movie fits the bill in that sense. But on the voice acting side, we've got Abby Jacobson, Danny McBride, Maya Rudolph, Eric Andre, and Olivia Colman coming in to lend their talents to these characters. Currently sitting at a 97% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 91% audience score. Ooh. So very, very high praise. I myself am a big fan of this movie, but not as big as these people. I gave it a 72 out of 100, 3.5 stars on Letterboxd. But I really enjoyed it, and I thought that this was a fun, creative, lighthearted, and very funny animated adventure. I don't know. How did you feel, Johnny? Like I said, you've kept me in suspense for long enough.
Yeah. I thought that it was good. I enjoyed it. I feel like I'm pretty much right about where you are as far as overall feeling and rating and whatnot. I gave it 3.5. Yeah, I thought it was solid.
Well, let's get into it. Here's the plot synopsis. I'm taking it this week, okay? I'm not doing a narrator voice. I'm just gonna read it. Young Katie Mitchell embarks on a road trip with her proud parents, younger brother, and beloved dog, who I forgot to mention is voiced by Doug the Pug, the internet famous dog, to start her first year at film school. But their plans to bond as a family soon get interrupted when the world's electronic devices come to life to stage an uprising. With help from two friendly robots, the Mitchells must now come together to save one another and the planet from the new technological revolution. Very, very fun out there plot synopsis. I think this is a good blend of, you've got the family drama, you've got the road trip style movie, but then you've also got the apocalypse and trying to combat that. So a lot of different genres being blended together here. And I don't think that it necessarily adds anything new. It doesn't do anything revolutionary with those genres. There's nothing crazy. A brand new apocalypse trope that's going to appear in the
Right.
next 30 different apocalypse movies, or, you know, like groundbreaking family drama. But I think it does all of them well. And the fact alone that it's like blending all of those together is what makes it feel fresh and new, even though it's kind of recycling some stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much spot on. Like I said, I thought it was very solid. I enjoyed it. But on keeping that in mind, I also agree that it didn't do anything groundbreaking in the sense of the apocalyptic kind of robot takeover storyline. That part I thought was fairly by the numbers, and even the family drama between, you know, the teenager, like, coming of age story, and the parents and the sibling rivalry and that kind of thing. That was all pretty much what you would expect. But the animation, the style, that definitely stands out from the crowd,
Right.
and
I was
definitely
gonna say
boosted
that.
this one.
The if you want to talk about like revolution, I don't know if it's revolutionary, but that's the most out there and new thing here with this, is that it's not like your typical either like completely cartoon animation or your completely like Pixar style digital animation. That, again, I'm not an artist, I don't know the technical terminology here, but it seemed almost as if it was like a blend of like half 2D, half 3D. Like some of the backgrounds were more like 2D, and then when you're close up on a character, it looked more 3D. But just the style of it itself, it felt very Spider-Verse as well, with like, I don't know, the one specific scene where like it like zooms out and like she blows up and like there's like fire on the map or something. Like, I don't know, it's just like, it's not like, it's all like kind of surreal and like in the sense of like, it almost felt comic booky, even though this is not a comic book movie.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely there's definitely DNA from the Lego movie in here. There's definitely DNA from Into the Spider-Verse in here. And I think it's definitely to the film's benefit, as I've said, because the way they communicate certain moments, or just like emotions, or, you know, I think I'm trying to think of an example. But I'm thinking of Into the Spider-Verse, where a lot of that is so heavily inspired by comic books, and I think you could sense some of that in here. It feels almost like graphic novels, or of course just comic books, but it definitely has that same feel to it. And part of that is the animation, part of it is the actual like use of the color and the use of like motion, and the way all that's actually animated and illustrated, I thought was pretty neat. And the colors, everything about it, I was never bored looking at it. Like it
Right.
always, there was always something in the frame to be like, oh wow, like look at the color, like the way they use that there, the shapes that they're using, or the designs of some of the different characters and things like that. I thought that, and it almost reminded me, as far as things like maybe the character designs and things like that, it almost reminded me of like Leica Studios a little bit.
Yes, I could see that.
Like Coraline and Kubo, that and Paranorman. Yeah, all those definitely came to mind. But again, still very much its own thing, and the mood and tone of this is definitely far closer to Lord and Miller's other films than anything from Leica.
Yeah, tone. I want to talk about that, because I think that this movie, it was so self-aware, which is also what made it like feel new and refreshing. That it wasn't like, hey,
Right.
we're doing this robot apocalypse as if it's never been done before, and that like it's this completely new concept. And like, there's literally the line of like, hey, you mean the technology giant that's been collecting all of our information and selling it? It doesn't have our best interest at heart. Like, they literally like acknowledge all of these tropes that they're using, and it kind of like helps ease the fact that they are using standard tropes. And it felt like, I feel like just the general like go-to compliment is that it felt like Deadpool-y in the sense of like literally addressing like stuff that is happening. I don't think they break the fourth wall, but still it's like comes very close to that. But I want to know, was there a particular scene that stood out to you? Because I have one in mind of just being like, this is super fun and crazy. I don't know. I'm trying to set you up to think of the same one that I am thinking of, but
damn. Now I'm really thinking.
Because for me, it is the absolutely insane Furby attack in the mall.
Okay.
Let the Dark Harvest begin. Like, that was literally just something that came completely out of nowhere and didn't make any sense. But I was also like, I'm very okay with this, and this is hysterical.
Yeah. I mean, that was definitely, it was wild. I mean, it's not something I've really seen in another animated movie before. But no, the mall scene, and here's the thing. Like, while I said, I liked it a lot. I feel like this plot and I don't know. I don't want to say it was the characters necessarily, but they do feel very archetypal. Like,
oh yeah. It's like
in a lot of ways, even though they do try to give them their own distinct personalities and whatnot.
I hated the dad so much at the beginning because it was so like he was like so annoying, like trying to force what he wants onto the family versus like letting the family do what they want, and like it was your stereotypical like, okay, like I hate him at the beginning. They did a good job of that, and then like they make you feel bad for him, and then they like bring it back around, and like and they have their big resolution, and everyone's happy moving forward, and we're a tight-knit family again. But like he sucked at the beginning, like like not being supportive and just like making everything about himself, and like literally ruining Katie's plans to go to college to service what he wanted versus like I was so pissed off watching that. And then like obviously that's just the way that they get this movie started. But I mean you mentioned it earlier of like the family drama is very standard and nothing new whatsoever. It's very much like we don't get along, we go through this tough adventure, we come out the other side and have this big realization. So it doesn't have your typical like they go for it, and I guess it's like semi-affecting and like the hits you in the feels, but it's nothing compared to like a Pixar. Even like Onward. Yeah, I know you were huge on Onward. I was pretty high, but not like as big on Onward as you were. So like to me, that's like a mid-level Pixar in the feels, and that's still better than this versus like some of the best Pixar that is like rip your heart out, hit you in the feels. Right,
and that's why I couldn't really. I don't know if it was because I still found it to be pretty engaging, but it wasn't like super gripping, and I was never like, oh man, what's gonna happen next, or like where's this going? You know what I mean? It was all like, okay, I see. Okay, this is point A to point B to point C, and then okay, we're here at the end, and that's how it goes. Even especially, and I think this is a criticism that gets thrown around a lot in popular films, especially comic book movies and action movies. But they always, and this is by no means a grounded film or realistic or anything like that. It's pretty fantastical for the most part. But I think
what makes you say that? Is it the robots or is it the giant Furbies?
Giant Furby for sure.
That's what really broke it and made it fantastical.
But where it ends up in the end, like the final conflict, third act resolution, it just goes like super over the top and like insane, and like I mean there's some stuff that's going on in this and I'm just like, what the fuck, like where are we, like what is happening right now? And it's like things like towards the end, like they're just flying around like superheroes, like on the backs of robots, like standing up, like surfing them basically, or they're driving the old station wagon like straight up like hundreds of feet in the air, like thousands of feet in the air. And the mom goes like crazy. It was just it was all like, it was a little too like goofy and like
when the mom turns into like a ninja samurai warrior.
Yeah, it was like, do we really need that? Like I liked her already. Like I don't think she needs to do, she could still do action stuff, like fun stuff, but like I feel like it would have been better like keeping it more grounded to the character that we had known up to that point, instead of, oh, let's flip this switch, she's fighting for her kids now. It's like she's been fighting for her kids the whole movie. Like I didn't think that was necessary, and it wasn't like, oh, haha, like that's so funny. It was more like, okay, I guess that's what they're doing. But hey, it's again, the movie up to that point had still been over the top, been wild. But the way it all came together, then I was like, okay, I'm not so. It made me detach more instead of getting more engaged, like what you would want at the end, where, oh, here are the characters, like they're making their last stand, like this is what's gonna happen next, that kind of thing.
But they set it all to a 2008 pop song from T.I. and Rihanna, so what more could you ask for?
Right, and I thought that was kind of funny, but also kind of weird. Like they could have picked any song.
A banger. It's a banger. It's a great song.
They could have picked literally any song.
Put that to like levitating or something. Make it more topical to now.
Or like not even topical to now, because I get that it was something that was old and like growing up, but like I don't know, they just could have picked any other song. I don't know. Something about
it was very weird.
I think that the T.I. being in it also kind of threw me a little bit, because he's like a known like criminal, but beating people and all that, I'm just like, why am I thinking of T.I. right now instead of what's going on like in the movie? But yeah, like, because even comparing this to the end of like Into the Spider-Verse, which it's hard not to compare it because it's the same producers and the same studio. You know, at the end of that, you're super like, you're locked in. You're like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? Like these characters that you've like grown to love, and they're all like unique and special, like in their own ways. And Miles finally coming to accept himself as Spider-Man, and that leap of faith moment that happens. Like nothing in this movie comes remotely close to being as compelling as any of that.
Definitely not.
And so that it's a beautiful movie. The animation's fantastic. And I do recommend it. And I think it's pretty good, but the emotion, the pathos, all that stuff that would keep me engaged and extra invested wasn't there. And I think when we talk about our little top 5 list that we're going to do here in a minute, all of those, the reason they're in my top 5 is they have strong, engaging characters and story and emotions that they can draw out of you. This one, I could see people having emotions hit in this one, but to me, it wasn't doing it.
I have one final question on this movie for you, and that is, what do you think is in Katie's top 4 on Letterboxd? Because we know she's on Letterboxd.
Oof, yeah. That's a good question. And
did you catch in the like all of her movies, and in the background she had posters and stuff, and there was like a parody Portrait of a Lady on Fire poster. I believe it was one of her Pug movies.
Sure. Yeah, that would definitely be up there. I feel like she would like it. Like Fury Road gets referenced.
Yes,
Max,
for sure.
Road Warrior. I think that would probably be up there. She's definitely not a snob. I think she has a pretty diverse palette. So I would definitely, I'd give her a follow for sure.
100%, yeah.
But yeah, and I also, I will say, while I didn't have me in my feelings or anything like that, I like where the story ended up and how they brought it together at the very end, as far as like the family dynamic and all that stuff. And it's almost like there's kind of like a little false ending, and then it goes on a little bit longer. And I liked where it went a little bit longer too. Yeah, so it left on a positive note for sure.
Definitely. So like we both said, we'd recommend it. Looks great. It's pretty fun, lighthearted. But check it out on Netflix. It's now streaming. 72 out of 100 for me. Johnny, what did you settle on? I know you said 3.5.
70.
70? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're about to break down some movies that are far above 70 here.
Yeah.
Because we've got our top 5 non-Disney Pixar animated movies. Like I said, we've done plenty of Disney talk, plenty of Pixar rankings, but in honor of the Mitchells versus the Machines, we're breaking these down. It's not a draft, just a ranking, so there may be some repeats on both of our lists. We'll see, but we're starting at 5, going to 1. Johnny, get us started. Number 5, what do you have here?
So real quick before I get into my number 5, I do want to make some honorable mentions because I'm gonna.
Oh yes, I do have some as well.
Can't bring them all in. And of course, I haven't seen the entire wealth of animated films that exist in all of human history. I'd say animation is actually a little bit of a blind spot for me, I think, just because I haven't gone back to see all the classic Disney movies and all the Miyazaki films and things like that. So that's just a little disclaimer. But I will say for honorable mentions, Howl's Moving Castle from Studio Ghibli and Miyazaki. Let's see, My Neighbor Totoro, Neon Genesis Evangelion, which is the finale to that series in a feature film. Amazing, but hard to watch if you have not seen any of the 24 episodes from that show. And then also, speaking of Lord Miller, the Lego Movie. So those would be the few I throw in there.
I will also throw out some honorable mentions before you hit your 5. And like you, I mean, I would say I've seen a bunch of like not great animation because like that's what I watched growing up, and I've definitely like saw every animated kids movie as it came out from like the mid 2000s onward. But I have not seen any of like the Studio Ghibli movies. I know they're on HBO Max; they're there waiting for me.
Yeah.
But so those
really
sort of like
on that.
Those like prestige animated movies will not be on my list. And also another quick thing, the How to Train Your Dragon movies, haven't seen those.
Oh, yeah.
Which I know
Likewise.
are like huge as well.
Yeah, very, very popular for sure.
But my honorable mentions, one, a throwback to the childhood with The Road to El Dorado. It was a DreamWorks movie back in the day, like when they were doing like The Prince of Egypt and the Joseph. And then like also Road to El Dorado, which is not biblical, but very funny. And I remember being a big fan of that and having like McDonald's toy action figures from my Happy Meal for that. So that's a good one. And then Missing Link, obviously much more recent. You mentioned Laika. It was an Oscar contender just last year or 2 years ago. Right.
Yeah.
So that was a very fun, and again, like the Mitchells versus the Machines, a very different style of animation versus like your traditional, like that we get too accustomed to now. So those are my honorable mentions. Let's take it away.
Perfect. And last quick shout out, the Shrek, specifically Shrek 1 and Shrek 2, both classics, but they're not in my top 5. So my number 5, and I almost took one of those honorable mentions and put it in at number 5, but this movie is amazing. And it's been seen by a lot of people, but I think it's mostly like cinephiles and like people that are really into movies. I don't think the average person would really check this out usually. So I definitely wanted to talk about it. And it is Makoto Shinkai's Your Name, which came out in 2016, which is an anime film. And basically the premise is it has shades of like a Freaky Friday almost. But basically it follows these 2 high school students. One of them's a guy, one of them's a girl. And they don't know each other at all. They're completely independent, living separate lives. And then suddenly they switch places. And unlike Freaky Friday where it happens and then they're stuck like that and they, have to figure out, oh my God, who is like, in that one, it's the mom and this daughter. So they know right away, they can talk to each other and everything. But in this, they have no idea who they are. So they don't have the luxury of going and talking to the other person right away, very quickly and trying to, figure things out. In this, they have total autonomy. They have to figure out on their own. They have the power to destroy this person's life. They have the power to, change things, make the right decision, make the wrong decision. And it happens, it doesn't happen and then just stay that way. It actually continues to happen randomly and they go back and forth. And they have no control of when it's going to happen. So you can imagine a lot of interesting moments come up in that situations. And not only that, it sounds like it could be almost like a comedy. And while there's plenty of humor in this movie, it is a very emotional film. Very, very emotional. They do some really beautiful stuff with the story. And the story, like I said, it's very unique, even though it does have some familiar elements in it. And the animation is top notch, unbelievably beautiful. Some of the best animation you will ever see. So definitely can't recommend it enough. It's a stunner. So give it a look for sure.
Well, my number 5 is from your honorable mention list, the Lego Movie, coming in hot. Another Lord and Miller. I feel like I haven't enjoyed it as much like upon rewatches, and especially since I wasn't. Maybe I'm getting too crossed over with the second movie, which I didn't love.
I have not seen it. So.
The first, the Lego Movie to the second part, the first one was a blast, and it kind of like set the. It was kind of like the start of the whole like multiverse trend right now, you know, where it's like crossing over of different franchises, like we're gonna get in Space Jam 2. But absolute blast to see all those characters come together. I was a huge Lego kid growing up. I played Legos every single day. So to finally see something like great come out, and it really took like the heart and feel of those Lego video games like that everybody played on PS2 and like channeled that into a movie. And I thought that was they did it so good with that, and it's absolutely hysterical. So Lego Movie is my number 5.
Okay, yeah, love Lego Movie. Haven't seen it in a while, but I'll never forget watching it at home for the first time after it already had its theatrical run and being so skeptical of it, and then being like blown away by how good it was. So definitely a little bit of a modern classic there. My number 4 pick, and this I feel like this could very likely pop up on your list as well, but it is Brad Bird's The Iron Giant from 1999.
Shout out to Jake.
Shout out to Jake, filling in for representing my old the former co-host of this show. So but this movie, oh man, so good. It's short, it's sweet, it's so like the animation. This is one of those where it's great, but it's not like holy shit, like this is the most stunning animation I've ever seen. I mean, it's hand drawn, it's from the late 90s. But it still holds up, still looks fantastic. And really what this one does so well is its storytelling, its characters, the writing. And of course, this is a classic, but for those of you who don't know, the Iron Giant basically pops up in this 1950s town in Maine and runs into this little boy. And it's all about their relationship and how that develops and the conflicts that come about with a giant metal alien landing in your backyard.
Which are quite a few.
Yeah, quite a few, to say the least. Shades of E.T. for sure. But a really beautiful, it'll get your waterworks running. And just really an all-around classic.
Yeah, I will go ahead and let you all know that's number 3 on my list. So jumping ahead a bit, but to save repeating ourselves, I echo everything that Johnny just said. I know I had seen this as a child and then hadn't seen it in a long time. And then like when Jake was talking about how much he loved it and stuff, I guess this was 2020, like earlier in the pandemic. I was at home. I wanted to watch it. It was on HBO Max. So I checked it out and I was like, I don't have that childhood connection that Jake does, but I 100% like understand it and the quality of film. And everybody knows I'm a ride or die for Ratatouille director Brad Bird. So number 3 on my list, The Iron Giant. But number 4 on my list, going backwards.
Let's hear it.
Throwing it back to the year 2000. I don't know if you've seen this, if you said it's your blind spot here. Chicken Run. Have you seen it?
Oh, I don't think I have, actually.
This is a DreamWorks animation picture, and it is in the claymation stop motion style of like Wallace and Gromit, if you know those old cartoons. But this movie, I can't say that I've watched it in the last like 15 years, honestly, but I remember loving it as a child, and I had like a ton of different toys for it, and so like just like referencing it and quoting it, and like it's about these animated, it's all stop motion claymation, and it's about these chickens who a brand new like fancy chicken comes into the hen house, and the hens all hope that he can teach them how to fly away, but then the farmers come out with this new chicken pot pie making machine, and it just like basically flattens them into chicken pot pie. And so now they're all like in a desperate need and they have to plan an escape from the farm. So it's super fun, and it's still, I believe it's got like a 90 something on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's like, was well reviewed then, still holds up today, 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I know you said you haven't seen it. I would recommend it, and anybody else who's listening, check it out. Chicken Run. You'll fall in love with it. I should probably rewatch it myself, honestly.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one. I honestly, I remember it the most from seeing it probably like trailers for it or commercials for it when I was a kid. Like that's how I most distinctly remember it. It might have been on like a VHS tape that I watched a lot or something like that. But I really don't think I ever got around to actually watching the movie itself. So I'll add that to the list. My number 3, you already said your number 3 is the Iron Giant. My number 3 is going to be Klaus, which is the...
You're a diehard Klaus fan.
I am a diehard Klaus fan. Like, this is, without a doubt, I mean, it's number 3 on my list, one of my favorite animated films, one of my favorite films in general. And this is a new one. I mean, this just came out, similar to another movie that's going to show up on this list. It just came out in the last couple of years. And is a instant Christmas classic. Might be my favorite Christmas movie at this point. I will absolutely watch this every year until I die at Christmas time because it is just so wholesome. It is so, and again, this is one of the themes you can see here is that any good movie to me, or at least on the animated side of things, is going to have a strong like emotional core to it. And this one definitely does. And a great voice cast as well, which the voice cast I think is always going to be an integral part to all these movies, just as much as they are in live action. And this one is no different. J.K. Simmons plays Klaus. Jason Schwartzman plays Jesper, the main character. But yeah, man, this is, if you haven't seen it, I know on Netflix, they don't do a great job of going around and promoting some of their movies. It did get nominated for an Oscar, which I was so happy to see, and it absolutely should have beaten the hell out of Toy Story 4. No question about it. But I really do love this one. And the animation, the style of this is stunning. Again, it's almost like a strange combination of 2D and 3D. It's very much in the hand-drawn vein, but in a new light and new style. It's pretty beautiful. So check it out. And it doesn't even need to be Christmas time to watch this movie. You could check it out anytime, and I think you would enjoy it for sure.
Well, that's good to know because I've promised you for the last 2 Christmases that I would watch this movie at Christmas, and I have not. So maybe I'll check it out at not Christmas time.
If you don't watch this by January 1st, 2022, I might have to hand in my
discontinue
papers.
The podcast. Well, one of these days I will check it out, I promise. But my number 2, on it, you're upset with me, I'm upset with you because you made this an honorable mention when it is a modern masterpiece. And
this
that
is Shrek, isn't it?
Shrek. 110%. Talk about like the things that Shrek did for pop culture. Like this,
it's hard
movie,
to measure.
It is, honestly. 2001, Shrek comes along and just absolutely blows the roof off, winning the first animated feature Oscar. Like what more could you ask for? Though I was talking about being meta and pop culture references in Mitchell's versus the Machines, and Shrek really like paved the way for that with all of their like Far, Far Away's Got Talent or like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They're like American Idol. I guess it was American Idol, not America's Got Talent, but like bringing in, and again, going back to the Lego movie, talking about the multiverse. This was the multiverse of fairy tales to bring everybody into Far, Far Away. Iconic performance from Mike Myers as Shrek, and then also the character of Shrek, Eddie Murphy as Donkey. Who was it? Cameron Diaz is Princess Fiona, and then John Lithgow as Lord Farquaad. Maybe the most lasting performance there. as so many iconic moments that we've unfortunately seen throughout American politics the last couple years of the some of you may die, but that is a price I'm willing to pay. I mean, Shrek 1 and even Shrek 2 is excellent as well. And then it kind of tailed off a little bit. I don't have much memory of
Shrek 2, a lot of people think Shrek 2 is better than the original.
I mean, Shrek 2, you've got the iconic, I need a hero fight battle
montage, yeah.
So, I mean, if that's your pick, then I cannot fault you one bit. I almost did do Shrek 1 here and then Shrek 2 in the 4 spot, but Chicken Run made the cut. But yeah, I'm a little upset you did honorable mention here. I don't see it ranking anywhere lower than 2 on anybody's list in the world. So maybe you should hand in those papers.
It's again, this is a movie I haven't seen in years. I'm sure it still holds up. When was the last time you've seen it?
Honestly, it's been a while. But
okay, so you're really talking out your butt right now, huh?
No, just because I haven't rewatched it doesn't mean I don't love this movie and like have fond memories of it from my childhood. I don't rewatch movies all the time, Johnny.
Well, I'll have to revisit it to totally update my feelings on it. But I mean, I watched this so much growing up. I mean, Shrek, it's a classic, as we've said. One of the first movies I saw in theaters that I totally vividly remember. So always a special place in my heart for sure. Just not a special place on this list.
Same.
Number 2. Number 2 is going to be the only Studio Ghibli and Miyazaki film on my top 5. I mentioned the other 2 that I'd seen in my honorable mentions. I'm sure if I'd seen more of his movies, they probably would have popped in here. But Spirited Away has the crown. I think lots and lots of people would tell you this is his greatest achievement. Fantastic film. I have the remaster they released a few years ago now. It's beautiful, stunning. Again, some of the best animation you will ever see. Chihiro is a great lead character. And this whole movie is really, again, a story that has been told before in many variations, but this one does it and adds so much original flair. It's so inventive. Miyazaki creates just a rich other world and other characters and creatures and brings them all to life, including No Face, the iconic character. And, it just really all works. And the American dub is fantastic, super well done. And this is, any fans of, Alice in Wonderland, and, Wizard of Oz, stories like that, you'll definitely enjoy this one. And the music as well is just chef's kiss. Love it. Joe Hisaishi is the composer and composed a lot of Miyazaki's films. So yeah, this one is one of the best all time.
It's been on my HBO Max watch list since HBO Max became a thing. So like Klaus, I will one day get around to it. Maybe at Christmas.
Maybe make it a Christmas movie. Why don't you?
Number 1, it's time. The time has come. I feel like we may be in line here, Johnny. Correct me if I'm wrong, but my number 1 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. If that is yours, let's talk.
Yeah. Let's talk.
Perfect. It's no surprise coming after the fact that we've mentioned it maybe like 5 or 6 times already on this podcast, referencing Lord and Miller, and also referencing just like the epitome of like what an animated movie should be, and like from the craft of the actual animation to like the tone and style of the adventure, the heart of the characters, the emotion that can be packed into it. This movie is not only like the best superhero movie of recent times, but just like one of the best, not only the best, one of the best animated movies, but one of the best movies of the last decade, probably. Like absolute masterpiece.
Yeah, it's a beaut. I mean, I saw it in theaters. I remember everyone being like, "Oh wow, I guess this movie's actually supposed to be pretty good." When the reviews came out and people were talking about it, because Sony has had a misstep or two in their time, but especially with Spider-Man, I don't think anyone needs to be reminded of that. But this one blew away any and all expectations, and saw it twice in theaters. I own the 4K, which is stunning. Highly recommend it.
As do I.
But it's just endlessly rewatchable. It's just every facet, the dialogue, the writing of the characters, like who they are and what they represent. The music, the soundtrack is like iconic. And on top of all that, of course, it's an animated movie. The animation, the visuals, it is through the roof, legitimately groundbreaking, revolutionary stuff in this movie. Stuff. I mean, when we're talking about Western animation, we're talking about American animation, American animated films. I mean, I can't really think of one in the last 20-ish years that has broken ground quite like this one has. Toy Story, of course, I would say might be the most recent when that was being the first fully CG one, but they do some mind-blowing stuff. And not only is the actual quality of the animation fantastic, but the way they use it to replicate that comic book look. And they use things from the comic books, whether it's framing, whether it's word bubbles or thought bubbles, things like that. I remember coming out of the theater watching this the second time, and I tweeted that I thought this was the best pure comic book movie since Scott Pilgrim, which does similar things in just a live action setting. And I still totally stand by that. It gets better with age. It's been, 2.5 years now. And we're all eagerly awaiting the sequel. So that's kind of says it all, really.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. Hopefully, if the sequel's anything like the first one, then it should be freaking fantastic and only build on everything they established in that first film. So I think this is very, very well deserving of the number one spot on both of our lists. I'm glad we agree on it. I was going to be upset if it was not your number one, but I think we can manage to set aside our quarrels over Shrek and Klaus to come to an agreement on this, and that I think we're going to be able to keep this relationship moving forward.
Hey, I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see that happen, and I am totally in agreement.
Well, there you have it, folks. Top 5 non-Disney Pixar animated movies. Great films across the board. And thank you all for listening, for tuning in this week. We really appreciate it and could not do it without your support week in and week out.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much. And apart from listening to us here on the podcast, be sure to give us a follow on Twitter. Like Zach mentioned at the top of the episode, we are having some giveaways that you still have time to enter. Plenty of meme material as well. And just anytime some news breaks, we got it right there for you, as well as on Instagram. Like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, where we drop all the podcast episodes for you to listen to. And then you can find those accounts at Inside Film Room.
And be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts while you're at it. We're on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, anywhere you can hear a podcast. We are there. And be sure to come back, not next week. We're going on a little vacation, but the week after, May 17th, we've got a number of movies to break down. We may do 1, we may do 3, but The Woman in the Window, Those Who Wish Me Dead, and Spiral will all be out by then. So we have a great slate to pick from, and we hope you'll come back and join us. We'll talk to you next time.